Hello everyone, welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host Paula Taylor and this is episode 162. I want to start this episode with a little bit of gratitude. I've got two things I want to express gratitude about. My brain's already ahead of my mouth. First of all, July 5th marked the 4-year anniversary of Wind Down Wednesdays. I started this show back in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic as a way to help friends and family find some support, some collective support. My mom and I had a conversation. She said she missed being able to go to church and have the collective sort of support of people in a spiritual setting. And I said, what about if we do a guided meditation once a week in place of that kind of spiritual practice? I can share with you my own spiritual practice. And that was 4 years ago, and it has been a huge journey of transformation for me personally, for me as a practitioner. There were definitely times along the way where I thought about just abandoning this practice, especially as I got busier. I'm still juggling 2 jobs, my business and my medical job. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has joined. We have a lot of new listeners recently, which has really given me new inspiration and new life in the show. I have people who have been watching or listening from the very beginning. So I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who has watched, listened, participated in any way over the last 4 years. I will say that part of the reason this show is growing is because I have been doing my own work of claiming my light and letting it shine. We do that work together. As I encourage you to do that, I do it myself. I rise, you rise, together we rise. So thank you for participating in whatever way you have in this collective practice with me. And I want to say thank you to everybody who participated in last week's practice of supporting your spiritual support team or serving your spiritual support team. I want to let you know, if you haven't listened to this, it may not make sense to you. Don't worry about it. We're going to get into the topic. This kind of flows right into our topic for today. But the net that we were powering up last week is powered up. That net is all powered up. It's actually physically elevated. That we're going to talk about that today. The anatomy of what's going on energetically. When I checked in with my guides a few days ago, they were all out of their little stasis pods, and when I looked, I got the sense of the last day of school. If you remember being, especially like in high school, the last day of school, everybody's just like celebrating, and they're sort of, I feel bad for the custodian because there's like papers everywhere, but people are just in this celebratory mood. That is how my guides feel. And when I looked at them, because they're far, and I was like, oh, are you coming back? What's happening? And they showed me this banner and it said New Earth Orientation. So thank you to everybody who participated in that practice. Together we are much more than the sum of our individual parts. And I'm just so touched and inspired by everybody who has participated in that, including some of the feedback I got about people feeling empowered about this. Because here's the thing, together we can make change in the world. And the way I choose to do that is through this spiritual practice, through hopefully inspiring other people to do this practice. But this has real world practical applications. This ripples out to your family, to your community, to the world at large. So thank you to everyone who participated in that. It's not too late. Go back and listen to that. Your spiritual support team could always use some love and gratitude from you. Gratitude begets gratitude, and we build this beautiful cycle of love and expansion. So today we are going to talk about the anatomy of ascension. And this word ascension is something that I resisted for a long time. If you've listened to me at all, you've heard me probably say, I'm not a big fan of this idea of a vertical view of spiritual growth, this idea that we're up leveling or that we're going up in some way. And it's because of the connotation of that in our society. We have so many vertical hierarchies in our society that it's very easy to start being judgmental and to start looking down at people who are supposedly on a lower rung of the ladder than you are, for instance. But I am going to talk a lot about ascension, and I'm going to use that word today because what we are talking about is a physical, energetic ascension, a move up in our physical energetic fields. It's actually an elongation of our energetic fields. And this is all part of that 3D, 5D timeline shift. So you don't need to know what that is. Very briefly, I will sum it up, but that might be a good episode to go back to. I always try to make these episodes stand alone, but they definitely do build on each other. So for this episode, you might find it helpful to go back and listen to what's the deal with the 3D, 5D timeline shift. You might find it helpful to listen to what's the deal with star seeds. You might find it helpful to listen to last week's mini episode about serving your spiritual support team. And then as we get closer to the meditation, you may find it really helpful to go back and listen to the series I did on embodiment. And all of those episodes start with the word embodiment. What is embodiment? Embodiment and intuitive decision making, whatever it is. There's a series of probably at least 4 or 5 episodes that may serve you moving forward. You don't have to have watched or listened to any of those to participate in today's show, but I'm just giving you some extra options if you would like to utilize those and if you want a little deeper understanding of what we're talking about. Essentially, at this moment in history, human beings are being invited into this great expansion that some people are calling 3D to 5D. Some people are calling this moving to New Earth. Essentially, it's a great awakening. It's an invitation for a great awakening. And the other thing I want to say before we jump into the topic today is that I've been talking a lot about this pathway. Yesterday I was working with someone and my guides were giving me this yellow brick road, this Wizard of Oz kind of imagery of walking a yellow brick road. So we'll use that for this. So there is a yellow brick road pathway that starts at trauma healing and leads to spiritual awakening. And if you are anywhere on that road, you are in the right place. So if what I am talking about today really sounds like it's way out there and it's not resonating with you, chances are you may still be kind of in the trauma healing part of that yellow brick road. You may be kind of in that embodiment part. There are 160 something episodes now, including the mini episodes, where you can go back and find the point on the journey that resonates with you. Trauma-based fears, trauma healing, the very beginning of spiritual awakening. I just listened to my own episode from April of 2022 when it was called Spiritual Awakening Stuff's Getting Weird, and I talked about reconnecting to my light language and how far outside of my comfort zone that is. It's always interesting to me to go back and listen to something that was a little over 2 years ago. That is very much in my comfort zone now. I'm light languaging all the time. I have no shame about that. I have no hesitation telling people about it. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to explain it in a way that is understandable, but it illustrates this idea that all along the path, you will have these moments of awakening, and then you will have some moments of contraction. You will go back into trauma healing. So what we are talking about today is very far along this path of spiritual awakening, but if you have any intention to be anywhere on this path, you are where you are meant to be. You are doing the work you're meant to be doing. You're not getting left behind. The yellow brick road's not going away. So maybe you just got out and figured out, I'm not in Kansas anymore. That's the beginning of that trauma healing journey. Like, nothing looks familiar to me. What's going on? I don't like this. Where am I? That's kind of the beginning of that. Maybe you're in that angry forest of trees where the trees are trying to attack you, and that's your dark night of the soul because you're doing the trauma healing and it feels really heavy and dense. Totally fine. That's part of this journey. Maybe you're looking at the Emerald City and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm almost there. And then you get there and realize that this wizard you were looking for is really just a guy behind a curtain and there's more journeying to do. No matter where you are on this path, if you have the intention to expand, if you have the intention to have a spiritual practice, to grow as a person, you are doing it right. So just let yourself absorb that and know that even if what I'm talking about today seems really far outside of your comfort zone and doesn't even make a lot of sense to you, then there's no problem with that. You can still participate in the meditation. It will still absolutely serve you. You can also go back and listen to one of the other shows that do resonate. When I go back and listen to shows, because these are all channeled, especially the meditations, I will just look and see what jumps out at me. That spiritual awakening stuff's getting weird, that jumped out at me the other day, and I went back and listened to that whole show, did the meditation. It very much served me. So just allow yourself to have some flexibility with that. That being said, let's talk about the anatomy of ascension. So at my root, I'm an energy nerd. My specialty is energetic anatomy. That is what I do. I work with energy in all these different ways, through sound and vibration, through Reiki, through physically touching the body, because the body holds energy within it and around it. We've talked about that a lot. You can go back and listen to some of the shows where we talk about that. What I received this weekend was some mind-blowing information about the actual physical energetic anatomy of this ascension, of this great awakening, of this 5D shift, of this new earth possibility that we're stepping into, whatever words you want to use for that. And I'm going to do my best to explain this in a way that makes sense, to not get too long-winded, as I have a tendency to do. And then we are going to do a collective practice to help you access this shift in a really safe, gentle way, so that you can do it in a way that where you're still working on embodiment, if that's where you're at. We're always kind of working on that, I think, especially if you have a history of trauma. And I will give some nuance here as well to explain kind of the difference of what I'm talking about versus kind of disembodiment from trauma. So I was in my practitioner circle this Saturday. We were talking about the energy, how it felt kind of compressive, how it felt really heavy and dense. And all of a sudden, all of this information started coming in, and it sort of was trickling in all weekend. And then I had this huge expansion, this huge ascension, this elongation of my field I've been sort of accessing and losing over time. I think that's part of this shift, right? And all of this is, when the first time someone used the term 5D with me, I was like, I don't know what that means. And she basically said 5D is just being in unconditional love. It's coming out of that, she didn't use these words, but it's coming out of that ego state, that sort of contracted state of fear that is what we sort of now associate with the 3D, and into this 5D expansion, this state of unconditional love. It was right at the beginning of when I was calling in these dimensional frequencies, learning about dimensional frequency expansion, channeling it, figuring out how to teach it. That whole 7-step process is an invitation to prepare us for 5D. It's always interesting to me when I look back and I'm like, oh, that's what that was for. And oh, that's what that was for. So last August, I started offering these archangel sound journeys, sound activations, and it was all, again, completely channeled, and I was just getting this information as I went about how to do these. And what I realized on Saturday, when all this information started coming in about this physical, energetic anatomy of ascension, these what I now call angelite activations. This is a different aspect of dimensional frequency I have not really talked about on the show yet because it's so new. These were 6 activations that now I understand are a physical, energetic blueprint to this elongation, to this ascension in the body. And as I was channeling these, I didn't understand why it was coming through in a certain way. I'm going to describe the 6 activations because that will help us kind of understand what I'm talking about in terms of the elongation. And when this came in, again, I didn't understand why it was the way it was. I was just accepting it and offering it as I was guided to. So the first activation was a crown and heart activation. The second activation was a third eye and solar plexus activation. So these are chakra activations. The third activation was a throat and sacral activation. That one made a lot of sense to me because the throat and the sacral chakra are really linked in terms of creativity. And so I thought we were moving down the body, but then the fourth activation was actually all 3 of the lower chakras, the root, sacral, and solar plexus, kind of activating and removing some density from these lower chakras that tend to be denser. The lower down in our body we get, the more physical we are, the closer we are to the earth, the more dense the energy tends to get. And then the 5th activation was what the wording I got was recalibration, was sort of this preparation of all this energy we had shifted, getting ready for the final activation, which they told me, my guides told me, was called Ascension. And even at that time, I was like, I don't like that word. Kind of has like, again, it feels a little judgmental to me. It feels a little religious to me. But that is the word that I was given about this Ascension. And I did them, and I knew they were in preparation for this 3D, 5D split that was coming, that we started diverging in the middle of June 2024. And so I just accepted it. And then when I was finished, or near the end of it, I got all this information about how these are angelite activations. They come through the archangels. They were specifically done in this order to prep us for this 5D expansion, for this 5D split, for this Ascension. But I didn't understand exactly what they were for until all this information came through this weekend. So let me see if I can get through this in a way that makes sense. And if you're not familiar with the chakras, just very quickly, there are 7 main chakras in the body. They start at the base of the spine, at the root. The sacral chakra is kind of in the pelvis area. The solar plexus chakra is right below the rib cage, kind of in that upper belly area. The heart chakra, right at the center of the chest. Throat is right in the throat. The third eye is kind of between the eyebrows, just above, and then the crown is at the top of the head. There are other chakras that people are starting to talk more about, but those are the 7 main chakras that are kind of associated with what most Western people understand about the chakra system, as well as what I'm talking about today in terms of this elongation. So at first I was thinking about this as a shift, but it's not the same. So there's a little bit of a nuance here that I want to explain because of all the stuff I talk about with trauma healing. This is really important. So we are being elongated up beyond our physical body vertically. We're being pulled upward. Now, when we have a history of trauma, we tend to disembody out through the crown chakra, and we're sort of usually hovering somewhere off to the side of our head. This is not that. So I hesitate to use the word shift because that makes it sound like maybe we are disengaging from our root. This is an elongation. We are staying connected to our root. It's actually vitally important that we are embodied for this process. Again, did a series of shows on embodiment, had no idea why, just was coming up at the time. All of these are channeled. And now I'm like, oh, I understand. I was being prepared. I had to get really embodied in order to do this elongation because it's not a shift out of the body. We're staying anchored to the earth in our body. It is this lifting. It is this ascension that elongates our physical body. And my feeling is that eventually our physical bodies will reflect this. Somewhere down the road, evolutionarily, we will start to be 7, 8, 9 feet tall with these really tall, kind of thin bodies, because that is what this feels like energetically. But it takes a long time for what happens in the energetic to be reflected in the physical. So this is not leaving your body in a traumatic way. This is an elongation where you're fully present in your body and you elongate up and out the crown. And I'm going to talk more about that in detail. When we do the meditation today, I am going to carefully guide you through this in a way that invites you first to get embodied. That is a process. And if you are new to trauma healing, it is going to take you some time to come back into your body because your body does not feel safe. And there are tons of practices that I have to help you with this. Anything around oxytocin breathing, you can go back and look through this whole body of work. Any of the episodes about trauma healing or trauma-based fears, all of those can really help you with this embodiment. Any of the episodes that start embodiment, and those will help you get back into your body. We're going to do a little bit of that because, again, this is an elongation. So we're present in the body, and it's like we're stretching our bodies up, and we're getting much taller than we have been energetically. So what I finally understood on Saturday when all this information came in and I finally had time to kind of process it and make sense of it was that these 6 angelite activations that I did, the reason these chakras were linked is because this is where this elongation is happening. So we started with the crown and the heart. So essentially in this ascension, your heart chakra, which was in the center of your chest, is now physically going to be located at the crown of your head. It's like this elongation. So the chakra's not moving. It's not a shift. At first I thought it was a shift. It's like this connection. So you still have your heart chakra in the center of your chest, but instead of being sort of focused there, it's actually elongated up and connected to your crown. So this entire area in your body from your chest up to the top of your head is now actually like heart chakra area. It's like the heart chakra has grown and gotten bigger and it's elongated up. So what happens below the heart chakra? So that's an interesting question. Let me move up and then we'll move back down. So your heart and your crown are linked, and your heart is sort of elongated up to your crown. Your third eye and your sacral chakra are linked. I had to think about that for a second. So now the sacral chakra is basically elongated up to your third eye. The throat and the sacral chakra are linked. So basically now your sacral chakra, they've always been really linked, is elongated up into your throat. So what happened to your root chakra? Because I didn't mention that specifically, it wasn't paired. Essentially now, anything below your head is all part of your root. However, because there's this elongation, we're not sitting so heavily on the ground. We are lifted. It's sort of like after a Pilates class or something, like your posture gets improved and you've got this lift. And the way this came through, I shared this on TikTok. I thought this was an interesting way to explain it that made some sense, is this idea of if you're picking up a baby, or I have dogs, you're picking up a dog. I used to have these two dogs. One of them was a beagle. You'd pick him up and he was like dead weight. And even though he weighed the same as my schnauzer, when I would pick my schnauzer up, he would have his muscles engaged. He would feel much lighter, even though they weighed exactly the same. That is what this elongation is doing for us. So instead of being like heavy and dense on the earth and sort of compacted, mostly in our physical body, energetically, that's where we've been. We've had these 7 chakras that kind of move up through the body. Of course, we've had this beautiful etheric kind of auric field that we were able to expand. What we are being asked to do, invited to do now, is to elongate all of those chakras, and they all are like elongating up so that now, again, the root chakra is really kind of at your heart space. So everything from the chest down is all part of this big, beautiful, elongated root. Then your sacral chakra, which was at the pelvis, is kind of lifted and elongated up to your throat. Again, sacral is this creativity, and the throat is the expression of the creativity. So that one makes total sense to me. Then your solar plexus chakra is kind of lifted up to your third eye, which is also interesting because your solar plexus is kind of your will, your personal power, your ability to be seen in the world, connected to this visionary center of what do I see that's beyond the physical. And then the heart chakra is elongated up to the crown. And if you think about this, and then if you move up the body, just to finish before I get ahead of myself, so where is the throat elongated up to? That's elongated up to probably 6 to 8 inches above the top of the head now. The third eye is elongated up above that, and the crown is elongated even higher. So the image that I got was like, most of us range somewhere from about 5 to 6 feet, 5 to 6.5 feet. We are moving up to something like 8 to 10 feet. Energetically, physically, energetically, we are going to be elongated up to, instead of our physical chakra system, our energetic system ending kind of right at the top of the head. I mean, there's other chakras above that, but we're just talking about the 7 major ones today. This crown chakra is now, I'm 5'4", so my crown chakra is probably somewhere up around 9.5 or 10 feet now. And I had this huge opening this weekend, because you have to make space in your field for this. This is another one of the practices we do all the time. And I use this analogy a lot, and it works perfectly for this situation. So if you think about sort of having all of your energy compressed into the area just around your physical body, within and around your physical body, that's a little bit like that analogy I use when I say if you're standing in a small closet and you throw a bouncy ball toward the wall, it's going to go bing, 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 and it's going to bounce, 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 bounce. There's a lot of energy in a small space, and it can feel really chaotic and dense. As we elongate our bodies up into this 5D expansion, this ascension, it's more like throwing that bouncy ball in a stadium. So if I throw my bouncy ball in a stadium, it's not even going to hit anything and come back to me. It's probably not even going to make it all the way to the other side of the stadium. So the more space we have in our energetic field, first of all, the more expansion we can have, the more love we can call in, which is what 5D is, and also the less kind of chaos and density and anxiety we have, because we have so much more space to expand. But this is a huge shift. This is an evolutionary level shift. So this is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is not something that we're all going to access at the same time. This is something that we're going to start moving into. And again, I've been feeling this on and off for months, this kind of elongation, and then it would sort of release. And what happened this weekend was that the space opened for me, and it was like, this is a permanent shift. This is the 3D, 5D shift. This is what it looks like anatomically in the energetic body that's associated with our physical body. And the result of this is not just more energy within and around us that we can call in love, so we have more access to unconditional love. We can get out of that kind of fearful ego space, it's that contracted space, into the unconditionally loving, expanded space that is that source energy, or ki, chi, prana, God, whatever word you want to use for that, spirit, the universe. It also allows us much more access to realms beyond the physical. One of the things that came up in our practitioner circle this weekend was this idea of like this thinning of the veil, and that even people who maybe didn't believe in spiritual things or paranormal things are suddenly seeing things out of the corner of their eye or having experiences they can't explain. That is part of this opening. We are meant to have more access to this information, and I think it's being done this way in sort of a meticulous and measured way, because getting too much access before you're ready can be really overwhelming. There are stories of people having their kundalini rising. This might be another word for this energy at the base of the spine rising up and elongating out the top of the head. People they call it spiritual psychosis. So the way that I am guiding people through this, as I am being guided through it, is purposely measured. It's purposely meticulous. It's purposely one step at a time. There's a reason there's 7 layers of dimensional frequency expansion. You do them one at a time as you're ready. This angel light activation is kind of a standalone part of dimensional frequency expansion that is specifically designed for this elongation of the body as part of this 5D transition. And my intention, when I have the time to do it, is to actually offer that as a package on the website that you can do at your own pace, where you just listen to each activation, kind of keep working on this ascension. It's the only word for it. Again, in a way that is safe and measured and gives you a bit of control around it so that you can stop anywhere along the way. So when I get that set up, I've got to record them all and kind of put something together. I will let you know about that. In the meantime, I am giving pieces of this to help you, because together we rise. So as I rise, you rise. The work we did last week together was really expansive and amazing. Again, I'm so grateful for that. So what we are going to do in today's meditation is I'm going to gently invite you to access a feeling of this expansion. We're not going to do this all in one distance session. The other thing I'm going to say is that I am here to support you. So every week I do pretty powerful guided meditation, energy, sound healing sessions you may find that opens a door to something that you need more help with. Reach out, work with me one-on-one, sign up for one of my classes or group sessions. It's on my list. It's in my intention field, again, to start offering some ways that you can interact in your own time rather than scheduling something with me or showing up for a class that's on Google Meet or something like that. It's something where you listen to this activation and you can access it. But even in that situation, you might want more support. And that's what I'm here for. All these different layers of support, from listening and receiving on the podcast to reaching out one-on-one for more personalized help, for more support. So in this meditation, we're going to do two things. The first thing we are going to do is work on embodiment. And I'm going to invite you to sit up for this. And it's funny, I intended to wear socks and then I forgot because I'm probably going to build up a bunch of static. But we're actually going to do some rubbing of our feet on the ground. So have that in mind as you set up for this. Maybe you want to put socks on. Maybe you want to move to a place where you have a little bit of access to move your feet back and forth. It's really important to be fully in the body, to be embodied, before we begin this elongation, because most of us have a history of trauma. A lot of us don't have a lot of intention about or understanding about how trauma affects our energetic bodies. But what it does is that it pulls us out of the body. So we can't do this elongation from a disconnected or a dissociated, disembodied trauma response. We've got to start rooted in the physical body, present all the way through our body. And even those of us who I'm pretty good at grounding through my root nowadays, but sometimes it feels like my body ends kind of somewhere around my knees or thighs. I don't necessarily have a full connection to my feet. So we're going to do that first, and then we're going to step into some of this elongation of the field. So let's meditate together. So for this meditation, I highly encourage you to sit up with your feet on the ground, if at all possible, on the floor or on the ground. If that's not accessible to you, don't worry about it. But if you can, sit upright in a chair, on the couch, even on the side of your bed, and have your feet on the ground, because we're going to use our feet. We're going to actually rub them on the floor for part of this. So you may find, especially if you're on carpet, that you want to have some socks on. Just think ahead a little bit about the friction that rubbing your feet on the ground might create, and find a way to do that that is as least uncomfortable as possible. And we're going to start directly in the lower pelvis here, in that root, that tailbone area. So I suggest taking your hands and placing them on top of each other down at the lowest part of your belly that you have access to. When we put our hands on our body, we instantly draw awareness to that area of the body. We also start to call energy in, intentionally or not, through the hands. Like my hands are already really hot. So we're just setting the intention here that any shifts we make are for our highest good. If any part of this meditation feels uncomfortable, or if you don't want to participate, you can always just relax and do some deep breathing. From this nice rooted area with our hands down at the base of our belly, we're going to do 3 to 5 deep oxytocin breaths, just telling the body that it's safe. We're going to breathe in through the nose, and as you breathe in through the nose, I want you to actually feel that lowest part of your belly coming out into your hands, really letting your belly get nice and big. As you sigh that breath out, you're going to use an audible ha sound from high to low, vibrating the nerves that vibrate the vagus nerve, telling the body that it's safe. So I'll do one with you. So do at least 3 or 4 more of those. And each time you breathe in through the nose, really let that low belly float out strongly. And then sigh the breath out with an audible ha sound. And on your 4th or 5th breath, whatever feels good to you, take your hands and place them on your thighs, just wherever it's comfortable. You might feel your hands heating up. If you're having a hard time getting a sense of that connection between your thighs and your hands, you can rub your hands up and down on your thighs, just slowly, just bringing awareness to this connection here, kind of reminding your brain, hey, there's a leg below my hips here. We tend to be in the head space and we forget. We lose that connection. So take another nice deep breath. Try to draw that breath all the way down into your thighs. And then as you sigh that breath out, just letting that energy go down into the earth, just really connecting to the earth here, really getting present in the body. Bring your awareness now. You can leave your hands where they are, just put them in a comfortable position, but bring your awareness to your feet. So the first thing to do when you're bringing awareness to your feet is to just move them around a little bit, because again, we tend to forget our feet are even down there. We spend so much time in our mental space. So just maybe wiggle your toes a little bit, do a couple of ankle circles. And then what I want you to do is just gently, if it's accessible, if it's not, that's fine. Just rub each foot back and forth on the ground beneath you. Just activating all the little tiny chakras, all the cells, all the energy in the bottom of the feet. You can kind of do it one at a time. You can do them both together. You can skip this part if it doesn't feel good. Just slowly, gently rubbing the base of your feet back and forth along the ground. This actually feels really soothing to me, but if it doesn't feel good to you, you can stop at any time. Once you have a good sense of the connection of your feet to that surface below you, you can stop rubbing them back and forth and just notice what that feels like. As you breathe in, take a nice deep breath in again. Imagine the breath going all the way down to the soles of your feet. As you sigh that breath out, imagine energy coming out from the soles of your feet, connecting you down into the earth. Feeling really centered, really present in your body. And then just gently invite that earth energy to come up into your body as well. Just developing this nice solid connection to the earth before we begin to elongate. You can come back to this at any point in time. I am going to direct you every once in a while to, again, rub the feet back and forth, or just maybe rub your hands on your thighs as we do this elongation, as we do this crown opening, as we begin to pull energy and elongate it up and out the top of the head. We don't want to lose that connection to the ground. We want to stay really beautifully connected to the earth. And what you might find is that you'll feel lighter. Your body might feel more lengthy, more elongated, but you don't want to lose the sense of having a body. You don't want to lose the sense of the feel of the ground underneath your feet, the feel of the chair underneath your bottom. You want to still be connected to your body here, because this isn't leaving the body, this is an elongation. So as you're ready now, keep your hands on your thighs if that's comfortable. And again, at any point in time, you can just gently rub them. You can rub your feet back and forth on the ground, just moving the lower body a little bit to remind yourself to stay present in the body. I'm going to assist you here with some Reiki, just kind of anchoring the energy down so that you don't leave. And I want you to imagine, as we often do, the crown chakra, this area at the top of your head, opening. Sometimes I see this like a wedge of pie, and in this case I've been telling you to maybe keep it at 30 or 40%. For this meditation, let it open as wide as it wants. That is part of this elongation, is opening the crown, and at the end you'll have the option to close it if that feels safer. But for right now, we are creating this beautiful bubble of safety. All the energy in this space is for the highest good only. And you are safe to just allow that top of the head to open. And as the top of the head opens, just imagine energy coming out the top of your head, almost like a fountain, and then it sort of gently comes back down to earth. You can actually see this as a fountain, like it's shooting up out of your head and then slowly coming back down to earth. You can actually use your hand to mimic this motion. That might help. You might feel nothing at all here. That's completely fine. This is a process. So I'm assisting you here, just opening this space. At any point here, periodically, just check back in with your lower body, making sure you're aware of your feet on the ground, rubbing your hands on your thighs again. I'm going to come fully into this assistance of really opening the top of your field now. So what is happening here is that this root chakra, instead of being focused at the base of the spine, we're actually lifting it up to the level of the heart. Everything below the heart remains connected to the earth. So you remain in your body here. You just have this beautiful lift. Like there's a weight lifting off your shoulders a little bit. And then from there, the sacral chakra kind of elongates up into your throat space. The solar plexus elongates up into your third eye, into your forehead. And the heart elongates up into the crown. Feeling this lift here, just setting the intention to allow this lift to happen. The energy coming through this is assisting you in feeling this lift and calling this in and setting the intention for this. But if you don't feel anything, again, it's completely fine. You can always come back and repeat this. We're also going to open the space around the crown chakra, around the head, out above the head. We're opening energetic space here up, making space for this beautiful 5D ascension and expansion. This is all just the unconditional energy of source, of ki or chi or prana, of God, of spirit, whatever word works for you. This is the stuff that everything in the universe is made of, and at its core, it is unconditional love. So allow this love to open this area around your head. Allow this beautiful elongation to come up, lifting up and out the head. You might start to feel some buzzing in your head or some tingling, some vibration. Again, you might feel nothing. That's completely fine. Just being in this energy, allowing whatever comes up to come up, just feeling what it feels like here. We're going to step in a little bit of sound to assist you. I'm using a lot of beautiful Reiki energy here to assist you as well. And you can imagine, if you'd like a visual for this, you can imagine this infinite balloon blowing up. This isn't a balloon that's ever going to burst. It's not going to pop and scare you. But this beautiful balloon is just expanding out from the top of your head. It's getting wider. It's getting taller. This beautiful, it's like a hot air balloon, and it's sort of lifting. The basket of the hot air balloon remains on the ground. You're still tethered to the ground. You're still connected to that physical earth. That's as it's meant to be. But this beautiful balloon begins to lift. And this is an infinite size balloon. It can get as large as you can imagine, as large as your physical and energetic system is ready to handle. So just let it continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and stop anywhere along the way. Shitakanaya masatakaya nakata iya shitaka shitakaya shitakataka tatakaya ma shitakaya namahaya namahaya takatakaya mahaya mai shitakataka takatakaya ma takatakaya yanakatakaya manai shiatakanaya ma shianaya Shetakaya Maya Natakaya Shianaya Maya Shetakaya Takatamo Shiataka Katakia Shetaka Hu shetkanai ma she sanakatai. From this really beautiful expanded space now, just remind yourself that you've got a physical body, maybe moving your feet on the ground, maybe moving your hands on your thighs again, just noticing that you can be in this huge state of expansion, of elongation, and still be connected to the earth. You can be present in your body, fully aware of your body. You might place a hand on your heart or a hand on your belly, or keep the hands on the thighs, just being aware that you're in a physical body, but allowing the space for this beautiful ascension, this beautiful expansion. And it will take some time to adjust to this shift. You will find perhaps you felt like you lost the expansion, the ascension in your back and your body. Come back to this, just repeat it. And the more you do this, you're retraining your energetic system to hold this new shape that is available to us as we ascend, as we expand, as we grow in our relationship with unconditional love for ourselves, for others, as we embody this divine nature, this Christ or God consciousness. We begin to occupy more energetic space. We have the ability to connect with more spiritual information, with other realms, and we have a greater capacity to serve from this space. The larger we get, the taller we get. As we rise together, and we step into service for one another. We step into service for this beautiful divine energy. As we begin to slowly come back now, you can keep this beautiful big expansion around your head. I do encourage you to allow your crown chakra to close even the slightest bit. Let your intuition guide you. If you're still really working with a lot of trauma, if you're feeling a lot of denseness in your field right now, if you have a lot going on in your life, just set the intention to close that crown to about 40%. You can leave it open to any degree that feels good, but set the intention with me. Any energy that comes in to my system is for my highest good. You control your energy, and so as you set that intention, you invite only this beautiful unconditional light and love into your space. We're also going to set the intention to stay embodied, to stay connected to our body. So if you can say this out loud, please do. I remain fully present and connected to my body at all times. I am safe. I release any and all resistance to my own expansion, knowing that I am safe. As you're ready, begin to move your body, just noticing how you feel here. If you're drifting off to sleep, now would be a great time to do that. If you're coming back to the rest of your day or evening, just beginning to move around. Take a couple of nice deep breaths, sigh them out through the mouth. Just slowly coming back to yourself here. Sat Nam. The truth of your identity is that you are a being of divine, unconditional love. And you have access to greater and greater love in each moment of your existence as you allow yourself to receive that. Allow yourself to receive that love. Take a last nice deep breath. Maybe wiggle fingers and toes, circle hands and wrists, and as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do encourage you to come back to this meditation. Reach out for help if you need it. I am here to support you in this transition. The transition can feel uncomfortable and even scary. Change always feels scary to us, but this is an evolutionary moment to expand, to experience the world in a new way, to ascend and elongate our energy, to release some weight from the earth, and to expand into this beautiful spiritual realm where we are so supported. Have a beautiful rest of your day or evening. I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesdays.